All right, buckle up, because today we're diving into some pretty bold claims about one of the biggest names in news, the New York Times.
That's going to be a juicy
You
one.
got that right. We're talking about their iconic motto, the one they've been using forever, all the news that's fit to print.
Yeah, I know the one.
So get this. Someone wants to completely ditch it.
Ditch it completely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And replace it with, get this, manufacturing news to fit an ideology.
Oh, wow. Okay, they're not mincing words, are they? That's a pretty loaded statement.
Right. Talk about a direct hit. And it really makes you think about how much the media landscape has changed, even just in the last few years.
Absolutely. I mean, think about all the news that's fit to print. It seems pretty straightforward at first glance.
Yeah, just tell us the facts.
Exactly. But when you really dig into it, that word fit is doing a lot of work.
What do you mean?
Well, who gets to decide what news is fit to print?
Yeah.
What are the criteria? Is it just about what's important, or is there something else going on?
Yeah. I guess what one person thinks is essential news, someone else might think is totally irrelevant or even biased.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It's a debate about objectivity,
Mm.
about who controls the narrative, and ultimately about what we, as news consumers, choose to believe.
And that's even before we get to the whole manufacturing news part of that proposed motto.
Right, which is a huge EGE claim to make. They're not just saying the Times is biased, they're saying they're straight up making stuff up.
Yeah, it's like they're saying the New York Times is pushing an agenda, not just reporting the news.
Which, let's be honest, is something that a lot of people believe about the media these days, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, there's this deep distrust, this sense that we're not getting the full picture.
Definitely. And this whole thing about manufacturing news to fit an ideology, like what ideology are we even talking about here?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. Are we talking about a political slant, like left versus right? Or is it something more nuanced, like economic interests, social agendas?
Yeah, because it could be any of those things.
Exactly. And this is where media literacy becomes so crucial. It's not enough to just read the headlines anymore. We have to think critically about the information we're consuming.
Totally. Like, who's writing this? What are their biases? What are they choosing to focus on? And what are they leaving out?
Right. It's about asking those tough questions, doing your own research, and being willing to consider different perspectives.
It's like that time I read this article and I totally bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. I was telling all my friends, did you hear about this? But then like a week later, I saw another article that totally contradicted it. And I realized I hadn't even bothered to check the source of the first one or look for any other viewpoints.
Which is easy to do. We all have our own biases and perspectives, right? It's human nature. But being aware of that is the first step to becoming more media literate.
For sure. So what are we supposed to do? How do we cut through all the noise and figure out what's true?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. But I think it starts with being critical thinkers, demanding transparency from our news sources, and remembering that even the most reputable outlets have their own perspectives and agendas.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But at the end of the day, becoming more aware of these issues, thinking for ourselves, and not just accepting everything we read at face value is more important than ever.
You got that right. So next time you're scrolling through the news or reading an article, remember, think critically, ask questions, and don't be afraid to dig a little deeper.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.